Hello, I'm Trinity, and this is Devised Skies, and I'm going to be reviewing Harry Potter's third book, Prisoner of Azkaban. Alright, I want to preface this by, this is not Harry Potter, this is Hermione's book, to be honest. Like, I feel as though Hermione really shines like she never has in the other two. Like, you see Harry's and Hermione's friendship grow so much, whereas in the other two, she really didn't get a chance to. She was either petrified, that old thing in the second one, or, she had to go back for Ron in the first one, because also only one person could go through that door, right? That was the thing. So she really got to do stuff. Also, Voldemort isn't here. So I didn't know that and I didn't remember that. So that's an interesting, how different it is from the other two. I think this is a completely different book than the first two. Let's start from the beginning. He gets birthday presents from Hermione and Ron and Hagrid also, but I think it's important to note that because you really don't hear about Hermione until later on. And it's also important to note that Hermione carries this story. Hermione took too many classes, so she gets a time turner. And so then they can use that later on to basically save this whole entire story.
Which is never used again, even though it would be really useful, and it could have been useful earlier, but none of my business.
Also, you have this whole point where Hermione helps Hagrid while Ron and Harry doesn't, and Harry's biggest concern is Quidditch and how to get into Hogsmeade. That's most of the book is him dripping Dementors, Quidditch, Hogsmeade, and everyone's like, there's a murderer after you, and he's just like, but Hogsmeade! It's a very interesting story, and I do really love the last bit of it, but the first half of it just a lot of kind of almost petty little things. There's a lot of fighting between Ron and Hermione, which understandably so. I mean, that is Ron's pet, even though it's a rat, and that kind of should have died several years ago. We'll figure that out later. But I think it's I get it why they're fighting. I get it why everyone's like, oh, it's petty why they're fighting, but it's also technically, Hermione bought a pet that already tried to attack Ron's pet. It's a little not okay. That's not a good thing to do. But now that we know that he's also a bad guy, it makes it a little more okay, but still why'd you do that, Hermione? Why did you buy a cat that also went to murder your best friend's rat, A little weird. And then I love the ending just because there's so many plot twists that you had no idea that was coming, but there were some, I guess, foreshadowing to it, oh, Sirius Black is a good guy. He actually wasn't the secret keeper, it was Wormtail. Right, yeah. And it also was really cool that Snape was there. They attacked Snape and never get really any trouble for that, which is interesting, but moving on. And then it's interesting that he gets off the hook in the beginning for using magic, and blowing up his aunt, and almost should be expelled, yet last time when there was magic used and it wasn't even him, he got a warning telling he would be expelled if he did it again. I think these are some just interesting little things in there that I'm I don't know if that quite makes sense in my head. But I think all in all, this is a good story, but it's so different from the other two. Yes, you could still consider it a Harry Potter book and everything like that. It still has the feeling of Harry Potter. It's still very magical. But it's also very, I don't know if I like it as much, only for the fact that you don't feel like his life is ever truly in danger. Even when Ron wakes up and the curtains are slashed and you know that Black has been there, you don't see Black, you wake up to the screaming, but you're he's probably out of the castle by now. He's probably away. They're not just gonna catch him. I mean, the book would be over. So there's never really that moment of climax to me, and just intense, like, this is a big battle fight, this is something we've been leading up to. It's like, oh, Black is a good guy, his rat was Wormtail, and Snape kind of just went to kill all the Marauders. Like, he's straight up as like, Lupin, I'll just make sure the Dementor give you a kiss too. Like, y'all were enemies when y'all were kids. I think it's time to like move past that. It was just a lot of really strange moments throughout the book. But I do think it was still interesting for those aspects, because the storyline of the first two, they do that with a third book in a row where it's like the whole year you get these little tidbits of like Voldemort, and then he defeats him again as a child. You would kind of just get bored. And so I think this is an important book just to like break that up, just to be like, here's some more information. You're learning more about what really happened back then. You're learning more about your like father and how he wasn't as great as you always thought. Like he wasn't as great as Harry always thought he was. That he kind of bullied Snape, and you learn that the situation in which James saved Snape was actually his friends putting Snape in danger, which was a common occurrence. Which I think it's important to know this information, and I think this book is just an information kind of situation where they just feed you a bunch of information. There's not a whole lot of action. There's a bunch of cool stuff, but I think all in all it's an okay book. Alright, that's what I think about Prisoner of Azkaban. What do you think? I heard a lot of people say it was their favorite book when looking into it. So was it yours? What did you like, dislike? Leave it in the comment down below. Also, like and subscribe if you like this video, and maybe you can see more of videos like this.